Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum. Welcome to another edition of Debunked here on INX Prime. My name is Suliman Ravat. So, we've been following the situation in India for a number of years. Under the Modi administration, it's been a bit more than a decade now. And there has been concerns in recent years about the rise of Hindutva, about the marginalization of minorities, about the stronghold that the BJP and the Modi government had on the political scene, on the suppression of media and the likes. Now, this year, 2024, has been dubbed the year of elections globally, right? In South Africa, we had our elections on May 29th. The UK had elections. The US is going into elections. And India also had the elections. To us, here in South Africa, it seemed to come as somewhat of a surprise that the Modi government did not get a majority. Now, what exactly were the dynamics leading into the elections? What are the dynamics now? And what are likely to be the key issues that we have to focus on going forward? We are joined on the program today by Dr Sayan Dey, Assistant Professor of Postcolonial Literature and Cultural Studies at the Alliance School of Liberal Arts at Alliance University in Bengaluru in India. Dr. Dey, a very good day to you and welcome to Debunked here on INX Prime.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for inviting me in this show.
Now, let's go to the period leading up into the elections. Was it expected that the Modi government would get a majority? Did it come as a surprise when they had to go into a coalition government after the results were announced?
Well, I think this is a very essential point to start with. Well, honestly speaking, when prior to the elections, in the pre-election times, we were anticipating that the election results would not be the very same because, and for that we have to look back to the whole 10 years of timeline and the way the Modi government has performed. We have to slightly go back to the time in 2014, when after quite a big break of time, the Modi government came into power. I mean, the BJP government, rather, let's say, came into power with Prime Minister Modi as into the reigning space. And one of the many reasons why people supported the BJP government and they wanted to come out of the Congress regime was this whole sort of project, or let's say the false project of decolonization that was promised by the Modi government. It's interesting to see that prior to the arrival of the BJP in 2014, we really didn't engage with the term decolonization so rigorously in our public spaces. It was obviously, I mean, kind of quite restricted within academic institutions and curriculums. But with the arrival of the BJP government, it was all about that the Congress government is still very colonially visioned in terms of their policies, in terms of their approaches, in terms of their commercial ideas, education sectors, and all of these elements. They're very Eurocentric and elitist in a lot of senses. And we need to break away from this, and it's essential. One of the many ways we can break away from this is to sort of identify the problematic colonial hangovers that we are still living with, and we need to decolonize that. But eventually, what happened under this whole fake project of decolonization, people eventually realized that it was not really a decolonization project. Decolonization was used as a blanket to promote a project and sort of forcefully impose very distorted ideologies of Hinduism, which we refer to as Hindutva. Now, we have to understand that when we talk about Hindutva, Hindutva is not equivalent to Hinduism. If we deeply read the narratives of what Hindutva consists of, it is a lot of the distortions of the established religious texts, which are either half-read and misinterpreted, genuinely, deliberately misinterpreted in order to sort of distract the masses, in order to sort of misdirect the masses. And kind of present that India has a Puritan Hindu past, and one of the essential ways of decolonizing is to sort of reconvert into India into a completely Hindu nation and sort of push out and marginalize and demonize and traumatize the other forms of sects and beliefs and practices and the cultures and traditions that exist in India. But obviously, that didn't sit well with the people because with time, people realized what kind of damage, tremendous damage, it has caused in the process in terms of personal, in terms of society, in terms of cultures, in terms of traditions, and people were angry. This election, you see a huge turnover, probably one of the biggest turnover of people in the recent times. Mm-hmm. And one of the major motivation factor behind this turnover was the anger of the people. This time people were angry and they wanted to vote out this government. So not only that, we were anticipating that this time they're not going to come up with a majority. Rather, we were anticipating that probably we would be able to dismantle them completely out of the zone. But still, I mean, we didn't achieve entirely that, but to a vast extent, at least dismantling them from their pedestal of majority was still quite a remarkable and essential achievement in this election.
Where does that leave the Modi government now, right? Because one gets the sense that there are multiple narratives when it comes to India. One is India in as far as, a very fast-growing economy. India is part of the global south. India as a big player within BRICS. India in foreign policy, in other words. And then you've got the domestic narrative. Is the BJP and Modi likely to be more pragmatic now and say, okay, the people have spoken at the ballot, and are they likely to ease up on the pushing of their Hindutva agenda? Or is there a case of, this may be our last term, and this was a core objective of us coming into office, we're going to even intensify that move towards, the Hindutva ideology?
Yeah, I think it's a very essential point to think around, and probably it will be too early to sort of come up with a very concrete and confident answer. But obviously, based on the kind of transitions that we can see with Modi coming back to power, but not with majority, we can kind of ensure that they are not sort of pushing the Hindutva as rigorously or as what was seen even a couple of years back, or even, let's say even a year back, I mean, prior to the election, because there were a lot of these in these pre-election campaigns, and which now political analysts kind of understand as a major mistake by the Modi government, is where it's a sort of an overconfident slur where they went onto the stage, including the prime minister, and went on to say that if I have my way, and directly targeting the Muslims in the country, like if I have my way, I will make sure that they don't live in India, or if I have my way, I'll sterilize them and make sure that they can't, breed and, sort of overpopulate and outstead the Hindus of the country. So these sorts of, very direct attacks, which obviously we can right away see very Islamophobic attacks, which have been one of the founding ground of the whole Hindutva ideology and the functional procedures of the Modi government in general. Were actually backfired. Honestly, they backfired. People were not really sitting and ready to, digest these sort of nonsense anymore. I mean, people had enough. I mean, people had enough with the fake Make in India campaigns. People had enough of global India campaigns, where all of these promises that now globe will come to India, now India won't go to the globe, we will revolutionize the education sector, we will revolutionize the commercial sector, and we see the outcomes of revolution. It's right there in front of us. I mean, the frustrations it has created, like erasing selective histories from the textbooks, removing certain parts of the Gujarat riots from the textbooks, just rash privatization of academic institutions. More and more of the people in the community are unable to have access to basic elements of health and medicine and education. We have statistics, we have figures. So now the Modi government clearly understands that, all of these sort of this kind of communal vote bank politics is really not going to work in the country. So you see, even a year back, if you see in states like Uttar Pradesh and all, where you see the Hindutva government was like operating in deeply, densely dictatorial way. Now they have loosened the leash a bit, and they are trying to be more on the liberal side, or at least pretending to be more on the liberal side. But again, still the government is in power. So really, we can't be very confident. We can't be very optimistic. But I must say, being in India, working in academic institutions here, there are certain rooms of optimism that have opened up, which were even a year back was looking very bleak.
Now, how would you assess the state of the opposition, the Congress in particular, right? Because we understand now that control of the upper house of parliament is at stake in the upcoming elections for the 28 states and the 8 union territories. Are they likely to draw a sense of confidence and momentum from the recent elections where the Modi government lost the majority and have to rule by coalition? What are the predictions? What are the polls looking like in terms of the upcoming elections?
Well, if we go by, so I will kind of respond to this question in two ways. The first response would be if we go by already the statistics that are being put out by the news channels and the different political analytic communities and all, they're still sort of keeping it as 50-50. They're still saying that it's early to comment. But if I talk from a personal lens, as an kind of citizen in this country and observing what is happening around, I think there is a high chance that the coalition India can take over the upper house. But there are a lot of ifs and buts and thens in the process. We have to understand that as well. Number one is India as a coalition, as it has really worked well for a lot of states in the country, especially the southern Indian states, which are still very strongly a resistance against the BJP government. But the India coalition has sort of not been very well performed in a lot of the northern Indian states, especially those states which are Hindu majority or Hindu dominated states. And that are really quite big in number. Especially if we take the central Indian part, if we take the northern Indian part, especially we also have to see gradually northeastern India, which once upon a time was very, very openly anti-right wing, is now gradually falling for right-wing perspectives, and many of the states are kind of being taken up by the BJP right now. So the BJP is kind of successfully expanding in northeastern India as well. So we have to take these elements into account as well. Still, as an individual, I'll still keep at least slightly India a bit ahead. Probably I would have loved to say right away that India has the best chance of taking over the upper house, and Modi's government or the BJP government that doesn't really have a chance. But still, we are not in that state, because you have to also understand there are some sort of inner conflicts of the power grabbing conflicts that India has been suffering from since it's kind of shaped its coalition. So in fact, when the post-election analysis was done, and we were trying to, and the different research organizations were trying to find out that why India is like kind of failed to completely dismantle the BJP government, though it had so much of potential to do so. One of the many reasons that came to the forefront was obviously this sort of power grabbing internal politics. So I think that it's something that India really needs to work out. And that is highly essential, because if that is not worked out, the whole game can turn opposite. And again, there is a high chance that, BJP comes back as a majority and takes over the upper house.
Now, in many ways, politics is about personalities, right? And like him or loathe him, agree with him or disagree with him, Modi is an established political personality with a long track record going back to the days of Gujarat. How do you assess Rahul Gandhi? There was a time when people said, he's just trying to gain some kind of momentum based on the family history and the family name. Of late, I've seen some writers suggest that perhaps he's coming into his own. Perhaps he's found his feet and he's got a sense of confidence.
Oh, I think it's a wonderful question to think around, and I am afraid to say, and the analysts have also come up with these perspectives that where uh, India doesn't have a face. BJP has not only, we have to understand that BJP is so strongly grounded. BJP's political power, political roots are so strongly grounded. That is something that is keeping them going in spite of the nuisance that they have created in every sector of our existence in India. They have Narendra Modi, but not just Narendra Modi. They have people like Amit Shah. They have people like Rajnath Singh. They have people like Nitin Gadkari, who are in itself can be very good replacements of Modi. So let's imagine if sometimes Narendra Modi is not the prime minister, they already have their backups ready. The one another major issue with India, as I was, in fact, it sort of ties down to what I was sharing about the power grabbing politics. Still, they don't have a face. We have to understand one thing. In fact, I mean, even after this election, Rahul Gandhi acknowledged how Priyanka Gandhi, actually his sister, played an essential role in getting a lot of votes in a place like Madhya Pradesh, which is very, very Hindi centric in terms of language and Hindu centric in terms of religion. People in Madhya Pradesh or people across India were shocked that that BJP didn't come back. It's a Congress which came back. There is a power, and it was not Rahul Gandhi. It was Priyanka Gandhi who played a role. But then you see again that internal power dynamics of the Gandhi family is sort of kind of predominating the India coalition as well, where Priyanka Gandhi is not allowed to be the political face of the country, but then it is again that male Gandhi face that has to be there. So that is another major challenge because we all agree with one thing that obviously Rahul Gandhi appears to be as a young, as a sweet leader, as a kind of leader which we are not just looking him as an Indian leader, as a global leader, because now we see a trend of bringing in young leaders into the prime ministership, in the presidentship across the world. So Rahul Gandhi can be a face in that similar way, but then in terms of the political perspectives, in terms of policy making, in terms of ruling the party, in terms of capability of leadership, it's all highly questionable. Maybe from a marketing side, Rahul Gandhi is a good face, but from the political side, still it remains deadly questionable. And that is what another major reason that puts India into a very vulnerable space, the India coalition into a very vulnerable space.
Now, Modi's coalition, right, that allows him to rule, how stable is it? Because there seems to be speculation that the likes of Mr. Naidu or Mr. Kumar, that their support is very conditional. And that if the BJP government, if Modi tries to push through any controversial legislation, that they may break ranks and that coalition could come apart. How likely is that scenario?
You know, honestly and very bluntly, I tell you something. It might sound quite blunt and honest, but I have to tell this. It doesn't really matter to the BJP. It doesn't really matter to Modi. Why I tell you? Because BJP has a lot of hidden wings of hidden political wings which are mostly run by the youths, college youths, state youths, and all, which do not really come to the forefront in front of the media, but the way they operate in a very hidden and undergrounded way, going to the villages, going to the roots, influencing people and showcasing their works, incentivizing their states of existence is uncomparable. I mean, honestly, if you have to do an honest analysis, BJP's very strong foothold lies with the RSS, the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh. We have to understand India, Congress, they don't have anything of that sort of RSS. RSS operation didn't start today. RSS operation started in the pre-independent days when they played an essential role in sort of regulating a lot of these anti-colonial movements across the country. They bring this whole decolonial narrative. It just didn't start in 2014. It has 100 years old of its own history. And the RSS is the organization that operates at the ground level. That operates at the ground level. RSS is the central organization that sort of operates and bring up the votes and the vote banks for the BJP government. And these are the organizations, and that is where, BJP excels because they know how to, they're very tactical and they know how to play this politics of distraction. They will create a nuisance, but they are also sure that the organizations like RSS, ABVP, and all of these youth wings, other sorts of youth wings, they're so strong, they have such a strong foothold across the rooted sections of the society that even if a couple of these coalitions or these sort of things fall out, they have strong backups. Maybe again, as we see here already, the election results, they don't come back as a sort of majority, that's for sure. But then still they come back.
Yeah.
Still they hold on to the leash.
Now, what do you make of the protests that we have seen recently in India? I mean, one example would be the protests after the raping and the killing of the female doctor. Is this symptomatic? Is this an indication that sentiment now at ground level is starting to change? Let's go back to your point where you say that the BJP have these wings amongst the youth. Here in South Africa, we would assume, perhaps erroneously so, that the majority of the youth in India would be more secular in the world of social media and being exposed to other ideologies and other kinds of lifestyle. What's your assessment of what's happening on the ground? Could a groundswell kind of change the trajectory of where the BJP wants to take India?
Absolutely, because especially when you are pointing about this the recent rape incident of the doctor in West Bengal, right? And I'm from the city of Kolkata. I'm from West Bengal, and the hospital is not very far from my home. Like I'm very nearby to the hospital. When we talk about these spaces, we have to remember that Kolkata as a state, West Bengal as a state and Kolkata as a city, as a part of the state, is kind of ruled by the Trinamool government, which is headed by Mamata Banerjee. Now, already BJP had already made a strong foothold across West Bengal, even in the last election as well. They got quite a number of seats, which was quite surprising for a lot of people. But then it is also not surprising because of the loopholes of the activities in the policy making and the operational glitches that we see with the present government. And BJP actually takes a very good advantage of it. And I believe it's majorly of any political parties, but BJP has a very strong IT cell who are always sitting at the backside, who are always sitting at the backyards and consistently doing research, gathering data, bringing out statistics, telling the leaders that, these are the loopholes that you see, these are the loopholes that we can capitalize, we can make through it, and we can win votes from the people. So, there is and again, that sort of transformation is very interesting. But that sort of transformation that you specifically see in the context of West Bengal, because 34 years of leftist rule, people are still disillusioned. And the leftist government is not in a position to reconvene and come into a space where they can assure people that we are there for you. The Trinamool Congress, people are disillusioned with the Trinamool Congress party now. The only other option is left with BJP. Obviously, people are very skeptical. Again, very skeptical, because that would sort of, bring a lot of challenge to the liberal approach, existential approach of the Bengalis, or widely the other residents along with the Bengalis in West Bengal. But then there is also a huge chance of transformation and transition, because the RSS now is gaining a lot of strength. The ABVP youth wing of BJP is gaining a lot of strength. Even other new youth wings are coming up in West Bengal in order to sort of operationalize the rise of BJP in the state.
Yeah.
And during this protest, it has also been very much visible in the process.
Very quickly, just to conclude, right? Moving away from the domestic aspects towards the foreign policy, do you think the Modi government, with its reduced majority, still has the ability to advance the ideals of the global South and to leverage India on the international scene? Does that agenda still remain intact? And on that, do you foresee any change in terms of the government's position when it comes to Kashmir now that they no longer have a majority?
Well, in coming to the first question, or rather, let's start with the second question. Honestly, right now, still there is little chance of changing any stance to Kashmir. Even if they don't have a majority, Kashmir really, till now, in the elections, they didn't play a game-changing role for the Modi government uh, in terms of their votes or not getting votes, right? So I don't think the Modi government would be really bothered about changing their stance in Kashmir. And honestly, till now, we don't see anything of that sort. And coming back to, and then going to your first part of the aspect, it's still Modi. It's still Modi because we have to understand that the right wing, because Modi sells right wing. Modi doesn't just sell BJP. Modi doesn't sell decolonization. Modi sells right wing. And within, if you look at all the other right wing communities or the right wing governmentships across the world, in the Europe, in the US, or in other parts of the world, they fancy decoloniality. They use the word decoloniality and decolonization and indigenization very fancifully to sort of put forth their problematic narratives, justify their problematic operational procedures. So, what is happening is when we look at Modi's operational procedures at the global level, he has a lot of allies. He operates like a network. After Modi came to India's, just one small example to conclude. After Modi came to as the Prime Minister of India, just let us look at the kind of support he has gathered from the NRI Hindus across the world. You just don't see that at the time of the Congress. You just don't see that at the time of the Congress. There is already a result of it where you see that how Hindutva has gained so much of international ground across the world, And this is already an instance, and it is further increasing. Even after Modi not getting a majority, it is further increasing. And Modi is still the face of the Indian commercial sector. We still see all the businesses, all the contracts, all sorts of imports, export businesses. It's all being taken up by the BJP government with Modi as its face. So honestly, I mean, there is a lot of work. There are opportunities. There are possibilities to change the game. But honestly, from India's side, there are a lot of stones that need to be turned before we are in a confident position to say, yes, now we are in a position to do that. Now we are going to dismantle the BJP government. Still, honestly, there are hopes, but still, honestly, we are not in a position to say that.
Dr. Sayan Dey, thank you so much for your time. It was a very enlightening discussion. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the wonderful conversation. Have a nice day.
Go on. Well, we were talking India on today's edition of Debunked. Last week we focused on Sudan. Prior to that, we looked at the riots in the UK, and I had, I think the week before that, the Trump-Harris dynamic in the US. After many months of covering local politics, we're focusing a little bit more international. But obviously, in the coming weeks, we'll alternate between the two. There's always a lot happening here on the South African front. Justice ministers getting implicated in VBS. This VBS is like going to be now, I suppose, the new, the arms deal that kind of got so many people caught in its web and net in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then now you've got this VBS. The skeleton seemed to be tumbling out, and then you've got a mayor who says you've got to hire foreigners to deal with foreigners at police enforcement level, and all hell breaks loose. So yeah, I mean, some of the issues are global, isn't it? And some of the issues are very local, and we continue to cover those issues week on week here on Debunked, only on INX Prime. Until next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.